There's no rest for the weary in D.C., at least this week. This afternoon, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld a block on the president's revised travel ban. Maryland and D.C. both filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump, claiming he is violating the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution. Don't worry, we'll explain it. Tomorrow, things will heat up even more when Attorney General Jeff Sessions will publicly testify about his Russian meetings and his role in the firing of former FBI Director James Comey. As you remember, Comey testified under oath last week that he believed he was fired because of the Russia investigation. But if you think the mood in the White House is dark, think again. Here's a bit of Trump's cabinet meeting today when the president asked each member for a report.
Thank you, Mr. President, and just the greatest privilege of my life is to serve as vice president to a president who's keeping his word to the American people.
I can't thank you enough for the privilege that you've given me and the leadership that you've shown.
Thank you for the opportunity to help fix the trade deficit and other things.
I'm privileged to be here.
It's a privilege to serve.
Deeply honored. It's a great privilege you've given me.
An honor to be on the team.
On behalf of the entire senior staff around you, Mr. President, we thank you for the opportunity and the blessing that you've given us to serve your agenda and the American people.
Do either of you want to thank me for being here? Joining me for a reunion of sorts are my Boston Public Radio co-host, Margery Eaton, I love your show, and our former radio colleague, conservative political commentator, Michael Graham. Nice to see you.
I'm so stunned that you guys ended up on public broadcasting. That was a shock to me. So Spike TV, that deal didn't come through? I would have.
And I just want to say, the last time I saw you, I was in a parking lot in Denver. Jim drove away in the rental car, left me stranded. Michael came and picked me up, carried my bags to his rental car, and took me to the hotel.
And being a good liberal as she was, she didn't tip me. Can you believe that? Not a tip?
Now,
nothing.
The reason you're here is you're both great legal scholars.
That's
I
right.
would assume you would agree that the attorneys general from D.C. and Maryland have like an ironclad case. This Emoluments Clause, I'm serious, prohibits payments to U.S. officials from foreign government sources. That's what they're doing at his hotels and his businesses.
Well, listen, the American people were very, very clear that Donald Trump owned a bunch of businesses, owned a bunch of hotels. They voted for him anyway. They knew what they were getting. This is going to be a mess because of the kind of business that he does, which involves a lot of licensing. If he had a factory that just like made whatever shoes or something, he could say, hey, someone go handle it, whatever. But he can't. The tentacles are spread out too far.
So wait a second, so the voters can waive the constitutional provision? Is that how it works?
If you can actually show that Donald Trump, as sitting as president, is benefiting by being president from getting money from foreign powers, then you've got something there.
Here's the D.C. Here's the D.C. Attorney General, and then we'll get your sense. Here he is.
Never in the history of this country have we had a president with these kinds of extensive business entanglements, or a president who refused to adequately distance themselves from their holdings. President Trump's businesses and his dealings violate the Constitution's anti-corruption provisions.
Yeah, I hate to agree with him, but on this one, I think he's right. Every voter knew that his tentacles were all over the place.
Yes, but remember what the president promised early on? He promised he was going to return the money that all these foreign dignitaries were giving him to the Treasury, and I think now that somehow it's become too difficult for him to do that. And he's also, beyond D.C., and I think the D.C. is arguing, of course, that their taxpayers are being affected by this.
Other businesses are losing business.
But it's going to be interesting to see what happens to these three-star hotels that the Sons are starting in states that he ran. I mean, there could be some question there. Is he shutting down the whole place? It would be like, when Home Depot comes into town and shuts down the little hardware stores.
Look, you guys are so hard on Trump. He said that when people from other countries show up and they say that I'm here representing the country, that then they will take that money and they'll donate. So basically, they have like a jar at the counter, and like you can put your money for the Treasury here. What more does the guy have to do?
Can we stay with you for a second? You're a conservative who's always been part of the Never Trump crowd. I read something you wrote just last month referring to his, quote, erratic incompetence. And when I read it, I nod my head, and then I say, well, wait a second. What are true conservatives? What's their problem? He's anti-regulation. He's for smaller government. He's for tax breaks for the rich who theoretically are going to create jobs for all the rest of us. What's your problem with him other than he's erratically incompetent?
Other than that, I can't think of it.
I'm serious.
Let me be clear something. I am not never Trump. I'm very, very clear with this. I am reluctant, I'm distant, I can't see myself getting on board, but I try to be open to the things, to be serious for a second, open to the things he gets right. I consider myself Trump curious. Buy me a couple of drinks and then maybe we'll see what's going to happen. But the fact is, like on regulations, the stuff he's doing is brilliant, it's fantastic, it's having an immediate impact. The fact is that understanding that there is a civilizational challenge that is presented by the people behind terrorism and that the West should unite and confront it. He's right in the big picture.
You sound a lot like a Trump supporter.
The problem is the execution and the guy who's executing.
Can we talk about, you want to say something about that?
No, I was just going to say that I think that I'm interested because you are a conservative. You see a lot of people now comparing this era to the Nixon era and how conservatives were separating themselves out. Then George Will was starting out as a columnist and a big conservative saying, I got nothing to do with this guy Nixon. How somebody else ran against Nixon or tried to go in a primary against him saying, this is not me. And you wonder when more of the Republicans are going to be a little bit more critical because I think they're hurting them. I don't get Paul Ryan.
This is my opinion based on what I've seen. And, until recently I was working with the Weekly Standard, which is the leader of the Never Trump movement.
Bible.
Actually, this is where I just read this in the Weekly Standard.
And I just wrote
a
a piece for them called What Will Buckley Do?, where I took the language that Buckley used for Republicans who wanted to appease the Russians and basically say, we can't do anything, just be quiet. And he said, no, you have to stand. Even if you're going to lose an election, you have to stand. And so that's the view that they come out of. But Republicans, to a large degree, are held hostage by their base, by the voters. If you look at poll after poll, 80+% of Republicans still support Donald Trump. And you also have the advantage that he has that the people who attack him are so ludicrously over the top and idiotic that fence sitters who would walk away from the guy because he drives them crazy turn around and they see the maniacal screaming about impeachment and the emoluments clause and they go, whatever. And so,
by the way, how about that you saw the story in the Globe where Catherine Clark and Seth Moulton were saying, let's get off this impeachment thing. Democrats, critics of the president, have to have something more in their arsenal than just saying this guy is horrible and deserves to be impeached.
Yes,
the Trump haters who are holding up the severed head are doing him so many favors.
The severed head. I have been sort of over the top myself, I must admit.
But you're not in a severed head class.
I'm not carried around a severed head all the Kathy Griffin. But, I think it's absolutely true. It just can't be a repeat of the election, which is Trump is so terrible. I mean, Hillary Clinton tried that. A lot of people thought she was pretty terrible too, but didn't work very well. So it has to be something beyond just he's terrible. And I think they've got to work really hard to get somewhere in 2018.
Well, by the way, let's get Donald Trump in this conversation. Here's one of the tweets from the last couple of days. The Democrats have no message, not on economics, not on taxes, not on jobs, not on failing Obamacare. You agree with that?
Well, I think they do have a message in...
What is it?
Because I think that taking away health care from people that already have it is very difficult. That the GOP plan is not going to allow people to have that portability as the way they've written it now. And that's something I think is going to be really, really hard. I also think climate change is a big issue. I mean, most people do not want to get out of the Paris Accord. Younger people, you see the numbers for younger people. Younger people are vehemently 19 to 67 if you're 18 to 34 against Trump. So I think on some of those issues, I think climate change is going to be huge.
Can we stay on those two things? The line always is he's doing it for his base. He's worried about just solidifying his base. Half of his base is not even with him on climate change and the healthcare thing. So who is he doing these things for?
Well, healthcare is a real problem because the mess that to use a line I learned from Barack Obama in 2009, that Trump inherited is so awful. The premiums have gone up so much compared to what we were told it was going to be.
So the way to fix it is to throw 24 million people off.
No, the way to fix it is with the free market. But to get from the mess where we are to the free markets is a problem that the Republicans have not solved. It's on them. They should have. They should have had a crafted plan where they could say, over the next 5 years, we're going to get from X to Y,
but you know what?
Et cetera.
There's a sea change. One of your conservative buddies, Krauthammer, that writes for whoever he writes for all the time on Fox, has said, we have never done this before. We have never said, okay, you've got health insurance, and now we're going to take it away from you. Okay, you've got we can no longer say you've exceeded your cap on health insurance. We're going to take that away from you. So I don't think the free market's going to work.
Well, first of all, I disagree with you because I've seen people lose their health insurance when Obamacare went into effect, and people lost their perfectly good health care plans that were taken away from them.
And they didn't lose their perfectly good health care plans. They lost bad health care plans. They didn't have the essential.
They lost the ones that they wanted to buy, that they wanted to pay for. But by the way, in states across the country, this problem is going away because Obamacare is going away because the system doesn't work.
In some places, it's true, down to 1.
Well, I would argue it's going in a death spiral because of the Republicans.
I have two remaining.
Death spiral when they got there.
Come on, if I may. Why is Jeff Sessions testifying tomorrow? Why did he agree to do this? I'm
I
saying
have
it's either
no
of you.
idea.
Because he's mad.
What? He's gonna fight back?
Yeah, he's going to fight back.
What is he going to do?
Because Comey said, well, there are reasons why he had to, recuse himself that I can't talk about in open session. James Comey, the most pompous, self-righteous oaf, Trump being the most pompous, self-righteous politician.
Who virtually everybody in that committee, including Republicans, found credible, by the way.
Credible on what? Credible on him
testimony.
admitting that I was too gutless to say to either my previous Attorney General or this president, hey, this is how I'm going to do my job.
So he's going to fight back tomorrow.
So he's going to fight back. Remember something. Sessions had a whopping 2 meetings with the evil Russians who were looking for moose and squirrel.
Comey allegedly says 3.
Yeah, well, and
he didn't disclose any of them. That's a problem, isn't it?
Disclosing, I ran into somebody at the RNC. I was at the RNC. He gave a speech at the RNC, and the guy from Russia was in the crowd, and he saw him walking out the door.
So.
My point is that Sessions has created a problem.
It's like the old days.
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
I agree.
Okay, stop. Go ahead.
Sessions created
I was just going to say, even though some people do not have credibility problems with Comey, Trump is much, much worse. And just common sense tells you the president who lied about his crowd size, who lied about the Muslims cheering over in New Jersey after 9/11 went down, who lied about the Bertha thing, who lied about everything under the sun, who can believe anything this guy says?
Okay, we only have 30 seconds left. This is the most important question. Reince Priebus has theoretically 2 weeks to clean up this mess. How will you tell the difference? I'm serious.
Which mess?
He allegedly has been told you have till July 4th to clean up this mess, whatever it is.
The Russia mess?
Or no. The White House staffing thing, whatever it is. Make us function. What is the criterion? You don't even know about it, so obviously you're not
Well, the problem for them is going to be that no one wants to work for them. Because I think everyone has been so tainted, and I have a theory that guys like McMaster that everybody loved and thought was so great are willing to fall on their sword for the country because they're so nervous.
They're real
patriots.
So nervous
by Donald Trump. They're saying, I'm going to fall on my sword and stay here and do the right thing for the country.
They are trashing their own reputation to do the right thing.
Yes, I think that's true.
So what does Priebus
The only
have
solution
to
Ryan has to do is he has to arrange for an alien abduction of Donald Trump out of the White House, beam him up to the mothership, and take him away. Because Donald Trump has one problem. It's Donald Trump.
11 o'clock tomorrow, is that right?
I think so.
You guys are on the
radio? You should get a radio show, by the way.
It's great on the radio. It's great on the radio.